Well, I think the first thing is the debt issue. We have a very severe supply-demand problem. So we think there's debt, and some people think, oh, we'll handle it because we've handled it so far. I don't think they understand the mechanics of debt. By the way, I've written the draft of a book that anybody can see on social media, on particularly LinkedIn, that goes through the mechanics of the debt. But there's a supply-demand problem so that they have to sell a quantity of debt that the world is not going to want to buy. And that's a set of circumstances that is imminent. Okay, that's paramount importance. Then we're going to have to deal, that the deficit must go from what will be projected now to be about 7.2% of GDP to about 3% of GDP. Otherwise, there will be a supply-demand problem. Okay, that's a big deal. You are going to see shocking developments in terms of how that's going to be dealt with. Things that may not have happened in our lifetimes, but things that have happened throughout history. So that's an immediate consideration.
Wait,
the interest rate.
What do you mean, austerity? Like that?
There are many. What do you do when you don't have an adequate supply-demand balance? There may be restructurings of debt. There may be exerting pressures on countries to own the debt, to buy the debt, political pressures on countries. There may be cutting the payments to some creditor countries off for political reasons and so on. So there may be monetizations of debt. If you look at history and see the repeating of what do countries do when they're in this kind of situation, there are lessons from history that repeat. And so just as we're seeing political and geopolitical shifts that seem unimaginable to a lot of people, to most people, if you just look at history, you'll see these things repeating over and over again. So you will be surprised, we will be surprised by some of the developments that will seem equally shocking as those developments that we've seen. So when I look at it, I think that these are of paramount importance. Then we're going to deal with the internal